Hello, I'm Nick Markey, online fitness coach here with Beach Barbell Training. And today I wanted to talk about a topic that a lot of people probably would be interested in. That is how to lose fat and weight. Okay? So we're going to talk about a few different things here. These aren't necessarily in order of priority, but just some things that you probably want to focus on that can help you lose fat and weight. And I distinctly say lose fat because I doubt most people want to say I want to lose my muscle too, and it would be unhealthy to also lose your muscle. So the goal when we're trying to lose weight is to ideally prioritize mostly fat loss while we are doing so. Ultimately, you have to be in what's called a caloric deficit. So what a caloric deficit is, that means that you are consuming less calories than you are burning, okay, than what your body is using for its total daily expenditure, okay? How I usually like to start with people is just very simple, something like whatever their goal weight is. Let's say it's 10 pounds difference. We'll times that number by 12 just to start, just to get an idea, place to start with the calories. And then we set up what are called their macros. So their macros would be their proteins, their fats, and their carbs. Okay? So the first thing you want to do is you want to track what you are consuming. Okay? There's tons of apps out there, like I use MyFitnessPal. It's free. You want to keep an eye on what you're actually tracking. What you're actually eating. Okay, particularly like the macros. So how many proteins, how many fats, how many carbs. Okay. In terms of protein, you ideally want to eat something between the lines of maybe 0.7 and maybe 1.2 grams per pound body weight. Okay. So for, roughly a 200-pound person, that would be about 140 grams protein, upwards of 240, 270 maybe, something like that. So anywhere in that range is good. Each gram of protein equals 4 calories, okay? So if you kind of start with that first number, whatever your goal body weight is, let's say your goal body weight is 200, times 200 by 12, whatever that number is, and then you subtract how many calories left of protein, and then you've got calories left for fats and carbs. And you could really design in terms of the fats and carbs, you could kind of pick however you like. If you'd like to have a little bit more higher fat and lower carbs, or higher carbs, lower fat, or maybe kind of in the middle, all are acceptable, okay? In terms of proteins, you want to focus ideally on leaner proteins, things like chicken breast, fish, seafood, turkey breast, egg whites, non-fat, low sugar dairy, like Greek yogurt, lean meats, like if it's beef or pork or bison or whatever, if it's kind of maybe 90% or above. And in terms of carbs and fats, you do want to focus on healthier carbs and fats. And so in the carbs category, we have vegetables, we have fruits, we have oats, potatoes, rice, those kind of things, okay? So in terms of vegetables, there's kind of a wide variety, so something like peas has a lot more starch in it. So you kind of would maybe call that more of a carb, a healthy carb, okay? Kind of treating it like if it were rice or something, okay? And then, same thing with pretty much all fruit. And then on the other end, there's vegetables that are just super fibrous and, full of water and have barely any calories in them. So you could decide to track those if you want, or you could decide to not track them, just be consistent with whatever you do choose to do. So if it was something like spinach or something, or an onion, those are pretty low calorie, and personally I don't track those particular vegetables. But if it's something like potatoes or corn or peas, stuff with higher carb content, then yeah, I would track those and treat them as if they were, my healthy carb. Okay, same thing with fruit. In terms of healthy fats, you have things like if you were going to eat a whole egg, so like an egg, if you're going to eat the whole egg, you track both the protein and the fat content of it. Okay, and also things like nuts, nut butters, olive oil, canola oil, avocado oil, avocados. Basically, these are fats that are going to be higher in unsaturated fats. You do want, just for your health, to keep the saturated fats lower. Typically, saturated fats are going to be higher in animal products like butter and fat, dairy that has fat in it, or some other meats and things of that nature. So you do, generally in principle, you want to eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of protein like we're talking about here. And the whole point of the protein in the vegetables, most of it is to keep you full, okay? Because you are going to be hungry as you start to actually drop your calories and start to actually drop weight. You're most likely going to be hungry because you are technically starving yourself. Your body doesn't want you to do that, okay? You can also drink lots of water too. That might also help you stay full, and it might also make you get up and move around more because you got to go, pee more often. Okay, and with that in mind, I think another good strategy is to also track your steps. Okay, so tracking your steps with just like a simple pedometer you can download on your phone. Most of them are free. Sometimes people like to use that 10,000 steps per day or whatever. You can kind of just set whatever goal works for you, and then you can just work on gradually increasing that. Maybe you decide to use that 10,000 steps a day, and so if it's halfway through the day and you're only at 5,000 or 6,000, maybe I need to get up more. Because what'll happen oftentimes is as you're losing weight, your body's kind of tricky, and what it does is it'll cause you to probably not move around as much, with like unconsciously. Like you'll sit around more, you won't pace around as much, you'll lean on things, basically to conserve energy, because your body's like, oh my God, we're losing weight, we're losing our energy in our body. We need to conserve energy. I'm going to kind of keep them from moving. So if you're tracking your steps, you may actually kind of fight against that. Okay. Another good thing that it's probably more towards the losing fat, not so much losing weight section of things, but strength training. So lifting weights, something on the order of maybe 3 times a week at least, and that's where also the protein also is helpful. So while you're losing weight, you're in this caloric deficit, and your body has to take something from your body to make up for this. Okay. So if you are strength training at the same time that you are eating lots of protein, you're really signaling to your body to hold on to as much muscle as possible. Now, it's likely that you'll probably lose some muscle, but if you are strength training plus eating lots of protein, you're likely to lose a lot more fat at the same time, okay? And what helps with that is also getting adequate amount of sleep. The sleep kind of actually acts as a double whammy. People that have less sleep, less than 6 hours of sleep a night, they tend to make worse decisions in terms of their foods. They might end up eating higher calorie foods and maybe kind of shooting their diet in the foot. And they tend to also lose a little bit more muscle, because sleep is a recovery tool for training and building muscle. So getting adequate amount of sleep. And I think the last thing, which you may potentially argue is kind of a mindset type of thing, is set an end date. Okay, sometimes people go into these diets and they're thinking like, I got to do this forever, for the rest of my life. And it's like, if you kind of go in that route, what's going to happen is if you screw up, if you have a mess up a meal, mess up a day's calories or whatever, you go over your macros, your calories for the day, you're going to have a tendency, if it's like a lifetime thing, you're going to have a tendency to just kind of give up. If you instead say, okay, I'm going to spend the next 4 weeks, I'm going to spend the next 6 weeks, 8, 10, 12, maybe 16 at the most. And you have a goal, like you have a date set in mind where you're going to work on dropping your weight with gradually decreasing calories as you need to. then what's going to happen is you're going to probably be a little bit more focused. You're going to probably make a little bit better decisions because you're like, you know what, this is a short-term thing. I'm going to fight through this. And it kind of gives you, it's like when you're training for something, you might be more committed to it, right? Like if you have a 5K coming up, or you're playing a sport, or you're going to go to a weightlifting meet or something, like you might have that more of that motivation to train because you have something you're training for. So same thing kind of like with the diet. If you set an end date, you say, okay, I've got a date. Maybe you set some sort of goal, hopefully a reasonable goal, maybe like 1 or 2 pounds a week-ish, somewhere in that range. You set a reasonable goal and you know it's going to end. You're just going to end it at that date, okay? Kind of regardless of what you lose, okay? Oftentimes what that's going to do is you're just going to be way more focused. You're gonna think about your choices a little differently. Like, okay, I'm gonna make these choices right now, and then when I get to that end point, I'm gonna maybe hang out there for a little while, so kind of let myself take a break, and it'll be a finish line, kind of in a way, okay? Until I set my next race, if you still need to lose more weight after that. So, setting an end point, I think, is really crucial. So, I hope this was helpful for you. We'll do some more talks about just different topics in regards to dieting and nutrition and training. But I thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you next time. Bye.